Hello to my literature group. How are you all? I hope you're keeping up with your reading of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe at home, giving you something to do at this difficult time. So today is our 5th online class and we're going to be looking at chapter 13. For homework last time, I asked you to look at chapters 13 and 14, but because chapter 13 is very important, we're going to be spending one lesson just on chapter 13. So you must make sure you've read that in preparation for the lesson today. Okay, so chapter 13, we return back to Edmund and the White Witch, and they're walking towards the stone table to find Aslan and the others. By this stage, Edmund is very sorry about what he's done, and he starts to see, and he is seeing, the witch's true character, and that she is evil and bad. And it talks about the prophecy in this chapter, and that is the prophecy that 4 humans, sons of Adam and daughters of Eve, must sit on the thrones at the castle at Cair Paravel, and then the witch's spell will break and spring will come and everything will be returned to right. So in this chapter, the witch thinks about this, and her and the dwarf have a conversation in which they discuss the fact that if there are only 3 children, 3 human beings, then the prophecy can't be fulfilled. And so she starts to get the nasty idea to kill Edmund, because then there would only be 3 children left and her spell would last forever. And we see her making preparations for this, tying him up, and just at the moment when she's about to kill Edmund, he is rescued by Aslan's rescue party. We see also in this chapter at the beginning that she talks to the dwarf and tells him to call all of her people to help. Now at this stage we know, and you've made a chart in your book, that the people on her side include most of the dwarfs and some of the trees. But in this chapter we're given quite a few other creatures that are on the witch's side. Okay, and you'll see some of those coming up on your screen now. And they are listed as ghouls, boggles, ogres, minotaurs, hags, and spectres, all very nasty beings. And I've got a little activity for you now. If you have a look at the slide that's coming up, on the left-hand side, you've got a list of those 6 creatures. And on the right-hand side is a description of what those creatures are like. But the descriptions have been muddled up. All right? So your job is to match, draw lines to match the creature with the description. Now, how will you know? These are maybe words that you haven't heard before. Well, you can use a translator to help you. Words like ogre or ghouls, you'll probably be able to look up online. Actually, don't translate them. Look up the meaning in English and then see if you can match it with the description on the right. Some words like boggles you might not find a meaning for, so see if you can guess. You'll need to copy these down into your notebooks. You've got these. Write them down, the names with the description that you think fits each one. And pause the video, and after the pause, we will check our answers together. You can pause the video now. Okay, let's check our answers together. Here they are coming up on your screen. So you should have ghouls. These are evil beings that rob graves and feed on dead bodies. Yuck. Boggles are ugly, evil creatures. Ogres is another word for giant. You might know that from stories like Jack and the Beanstalk. And of course, they like to eat human beings. They feed on humans. Minotaurs are creatures that are half man and half bull. A bull is a male cow, so half man, half bull. Hags is another name for a witch or an evil old woman. And spectre is another name for ghost. Okay, so check your answers in your notebooks. Okay, moving on. So Aslan's rescue party came and just in the nick of time, just in time, rescued Edmund from the clutches of the White Witch. And they then bring Edmund back to the camp where he meets Aslan and the other children again. I'd like you to think a little bit about Edmund as he goes on this journey to the camp and he's finally rescued. How do you think he was feeling? He'd made a lot of poor decisions, hadn't he? Do you think he regretted those decisions? He had betrayed the others. The other children were right, and he'd let them down, hadn't he? How do you think he was feeling? Think he was scared? Do you think he was ashamed of his behaviour? Sometimes when we've done something wrong, we just want to go and run away and hide somewhere, don't we? Like hide underneath a bed or something. We don't want to face up to what we've done. Maybe he was feeling that. And how would he face Aslan and the other children after what he had done? Maybe he was wondering if they would forgive him. Would you forgive him in this context? Quite a lot of things to think about, and I expect, though he was very relieved at being rescued and happy, I expect he had a lot of questions and worries in his head as he made that journey to see Aslan and the other children. And we find on page 150 in your books, it says that Aslan took him aside to speak to him. And we're not told what happened in that conversation. Let me read a little bit from the book to you. As soon as they had breakfasted, it's page 150, they all went out, and there they saw Aslan and Edmund walking together in the dewy grass, apart from the rest of the court. There is no need to tell you, and no one ever heard what Aslan was saying, but it was a conversation which Edmund never forgot. As the others drew nearer, Aslan turned to meet them, bringing Edmund with him. "Here is your brother," he said, "and there is no need to talk to him about what is past." Edmund shook hands with each of the others and said to each of them in turn, "I'm sorry." And everyone said, "That's all right." And then everyone wanted very hard to say something which would make it quite clear that they were all friends with him again, something ordinary and natural. And of course, no one could think of anything in the world to say. So somehow that conversation with Aslan makes things all right again with Edmund. Now, what I'd like you to do is, in your notebooks, I'd like you to try to imagine what that conversation would be like. How do you think it went? Have a look at the slide coming up. I've given you a few examples. Maybe Edmund started by saying, "I just don't know what to say to you, Aslan. I feel so awful. I just wanted so much to be king. I wanted that Turkish delight. I was so cross at the others. Maybe Aslan said, son of Adam, you must realize the choices that you make have consequences. And what I'd like you to do is in your notebooks now, write out, imagine that conversation between Edmund and Aslan. I'd like you to write out that conversation step by step. What would Edmund say? And then what would Aslan reply? What would Edmund say again? And what would Aslan reply? If you'd like, you can use my ideas from the slide to begin with. You can copy those down and continue the conversation. Or you can start the conversation again completely yourself from the beginning. Just remember, look at the bottom of the slide there, the conversation must end positively, okay? With Edmund having made things right with Aslan, or maybe Aslan making things right with Edmund, and ready to make things right with his brothers and sisters. So it's got to end well, your conversation. So, in your notebooks now, write out that conversation between Edmund and Aslan. Okay, I really look forward to reading your ideas about that conversation, that very private conversation between Aslan and Edmund, a conversation that he never forgot. Make sure you send that one to me. Okay, homework for today's lesson. I'd like you to think about this idea of forgiveness, okay? Whatever happened and whatever was said between Edmund and Aslan, we know that Aslan forgave Edmund in the end. He made it okay. And when Edmund came out, he was ready to say sorry to his brothers and sisters, and they forgave him as well. They said, that's okay, that's all right. And I'd like you to think about forgiveness in your life. Has there been a time when you had to forgive someone who'd done something wrong to you? Or maybe you were the one who was in Edmund's place and you'd made some bad choices and someone had to forgive you. And what I'd like you to do is just in your notebooks again, write about a time you had to forgive someone else or someone else had to forgive you. What happened? Tell me about it. How did you feel? Was it easy to forgive? Was it hard? And why? Can you explain why? And then you can just finish by explaining to me, why is forgiveness important, do you think? Why do we need to forgive in life? Okay, make sure you take a picture of the conversation that you've written between Aslan and Edmund and your homework all about forgiveness and send it to me in the usual place. We'll be continuing next time with chapter 14, so you need to make sure you've read that one too. Till next time, see you.